So welcome, for those of you watching this video around the world, welcome to our first Kickstarter. I am your host, Harun Bahri, founder of Sharktopus Games, and with me, I have the honor and privilege to have author Christopher Willett, and who is the author of the first zine that we've put together. It is, as you've already seen by coming to this page, for Dungeon Crawl Classics, and it is a Greek campaign theme. And so without further ado, Chris, welcome. Thank you. It's good to see you, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, what you kind of work you've done in the past that people may have, seen you in or have read your works, because you've done a number of projects in the past.
Sure.
Some pretty great success.
When it comes to writing role-playing game material, the main thing that I wrote was several modules and things like that for Guide to Ravnica, which was all about how to add planeswalkers to your D&D game. That was pretty successful. And then, I just wrote a lot of things that seemed interesting to me that I wanted to explore. It's kind of like write what you know. So I wrote a module about ninjas. I wrote a module about life underwater, under the sea. I wrote a module that was kind of like a giant monster book, and all the monsters came from the magic cards. So that was pretty fun. But this is my first Dungeon Crawl Classics thing.
That's very exciting. So what attracted you to doing a Dungeon Crawl Classics adventure and campaign theme?
Sure. Well, first is that I really enjoy historical role-playing. I teach world history in high school. And so I love history. I'm obsessed with history, and I love role-playing in a history setting. But in Dungeon Crawl Classics, the characters feel more fragile. They feel more real, more tied to their world based on what you roll up. And so when we were playing Dungeon Crawl Classics, I thought to myself, God, this would be so much fun to play in a history setting.
I know you got your master's in history, but of all the historical, cultures to choose from, why ancient Greece?
Well, this is a great question. The thing about ancient Greece is that almost everyone is at least a little bit familiar with ancient Greece. And as a dungeon master, how many times have you sat down and spent weeks of your time thinking up of a campaign world with mayors and taverns and coming up with this interesting and unique setting, and you try to pitch it to your players and they're like, I don't know. And you're sitting here like, come on, man, like, work with me here. And the issue is that for those players, they don't have anything necessarily to draw them in usually. But ancient Greece brings with it resonance. Almost every person is at least a little bit familiar with Greek mythology. Right. Even someone who is just your average layman could rattle off a couple of Greek gods. So when you say to them, we're going to play a role-playing game set in ancient Greece, they've already in their mind visualized what it is going to be like. And they bring that to the table. So their character concepts, their decisions are more tied to the setting. They get more excited about it because they kind of know what's happening. They know what this is. They get it. So that's what really draws me to ancient Greece. Not to mention, of course, the fantastic stories like the Iliad. As I was reading the Iliad, because I've read it several times, I constantly think to myself, gosh, wouldn't this be such an amazing campaign?
Right.
Wouldn't this be such a great adventure? So the setting of Aeon Ancient Greece and all the zine issues we're going to do assumes that this is just a few years before the Trojan War even happens. So all those characters from the Iliad, like Agamemnon and Achilles and Ajax the Greater and his brother Teucer, they're all alive. They're all hanging out. Helen hasn't been, whisked away yet. So all those characters are still around, and your characters get to interact with them.
Right. They're just hanging out at the local pub.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're absolutely right in terms of the players bringing, having that resonancy about it. And I was talking to a friend of mine, telling him about this project, and when I mentioned, it's set in ancient Greece, like, the excitement was palpable. Like, he was like, "Oh, that's phenomenal!" Like, "Oh, yes, absolutely, yes!" So, and just like when you were talking about the idea originally, it got me excited because I love ancient Greece.
Yes.
If you know about ancient Greece mythology and history and stuff like that, like, how can you, and you're into role playing, Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, how can you not get a little bit excited about the prospect of adventuring in ancient Greek
that's right.
times, right? And so the
second thing that really drove me to this project is, again, kind of like writing something that I wish existed, that I wish was out there. And there are in fact several other role-playing products out there that are ancient Greek inspired, but they lose me as soon as they start to put dwarves and elves and dragon-born people, and I'm just like, what are we doing? And they're like, "Welcome to Arcadia. It's not Greece, wink." And I'm like, no. That's not what I want. I want to go there. I want to go to Greece.
Right.
So for me, I want it to feel as real as possible. So, when we get to the map portion in a future issue, all the locations are real places. All the people who are there are characters from the Iliad. One of the guiding things for me is that Homer is your dungeon master. So if Homer said it's a thing, it's real. If Homer would have thrown this monster at you and your party, then he will. And right. So he was my main inspiration, along with history and things like that.
Sure. Let's talk about this issue 1, because this is what this Kickstarter is about. This is what people who pledge are going to be receiving once the Kickstarter period is over, and presuming, obviously, that we get funded, which I hope we do, and pretty confident we will. And so what's... You tell me, because you're the primary architect here. You are kind of the Homer in all respects of this, and I'm just a boat on the ocean at the whim of the breeze here. But what can people expect? What's in the zine?
So Aeon Ancient Greece is going to be a series of zines all set in ancient Greece. And like you said, I have completely written issue 1. It is 100% done already. The layout is done. The artwork is done. It's done. Aeon issue number 2 is about 95% done. Issue number 3, 95% done. Issue number 4 is 96% done. I honestly don't think I'll add more to that. And I'm already currently working on issue 5, which is about 50% done.
Nice.
So, we are ahead of schedule in that regards. The issue itself, which is, here it is, my copy. It begins with a brief introduction about what is it like what it's going to be like doing Dungeon Crawl Classics in ancient Greece. What sort of ideas and concepts should you draw into it? Then there is a section about character generation. So it's all about creating 0-level characters. we created a new luck score table based on the constellations, Greek constellations. So the results are the same, but the flavor is Greek. We created a table of Bronze Age weapons because not every type of weapon is available. I did not make rules for bronze weapons being weaker because all weapons would be made of bronze. If your characters obtain something better than that from the gods, perhaps, then it would have its own stats. I made a table of Bronze Age armor because they didn't have full plate armor at the time. They didn't necessarily even have chainmail at the time.
Right. They definitely didn't have chainmail.
I made a new table of Bronze Age equipment, where I kind of went through that equipment list and I thought about, and I only thought about, I conducted research about whether or not this would be something available. Is this something that would be commonly available? Then I made a table of Bronze Age occupations. Some similar to the core rulebook, but many of them are unique, like being an augur or barley farmer. I thought about all the different types of food they grew for farmers, so farmers are each individual thing.
I want to jump in and interrupt you for just a quick second, because those watching this video are probably more than likely Dungeon Crawl Classic players or judges. And how similar is the character creation in Aeon Ancient Greece to the core DCC rulebook that people are going to be familiar with?
So the process is going to feel the same. I didn't make any major changes to the process. The main difference is some regular Dungeon Crawl Classics occupations just would not fit into Ancient Greece. And as the judge, your goal is to make it feel as Ancient Greek as you can,
right?
Unless there's a specific reason why you wouldn't. So that was the main difference was changing a few things that might be available because they were not available in Ancient Greece, whereas they are available in the Dungeon Crawl Classics world. I made a giant list of Greek names.
That's pretty cool.
So I went through an entire list of ancient Greeks who have names that were mentioned and made a giant spread of them.
And that's you've got male and female names, correct?
Yes, there are male and female. Each page is one page is male, one page is female.
Fantastic.
And then finally is a funnel dungeon called the Labyrinth of Daedalus.
Spoiler! Don't show off the map.
The Labyrinth of Daedalus is inspired by this concept that I've had for a while of what if the Minotaur is not as dead as everybody believes? What if Daedalus, the brilliant inventor, is still around? What if he's found a way to prolong his life and bend the labyrinth to his will? So in a way, he's kind of like a wizard who's holed up inside the labyrinth and doing all sorts of kooky experiments.
Right.
I made a section of appendices, one for languages, because language is important in Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I based them on Bronze Age languages like Egyptian, Etio-Cypriot, Hittite, Ionic, things like that. Right. So you might be able to know a foreign language. Most people don't know how to read. You actually have to spend extra language points to actually be able to read. So not all of your characters will be able to read, some will. And then finally, speaking of reading, I included in an Appendix N, which is kind of my bibliography of all the various books that I bought and read. Because I've been working on this. Honestly, this has been a project I've wanted to see made for years. So I have a big collection of books. I shared them, including some inspirational viewing. So, maybe if you are trying to get your friends excited about playing a ancient Greek dungeon crawl classics, you might invite them to watch the original Clash of the Titans from 1981, or the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version of Hercules Unchained.
Oh, that's man. A classic. I gotta go find that.
It's really good.
I can only imagine how cheesy it is.
As a judge, you get to kind of decide, like, how do you want this to be? Do you want this to feel like a very serious mythological, or my preference, more like Clash of the Titans, where the 1981 version with the robot bird.
Yeah.
Pupo.
Not the newer reboot.
No, definitely the old one has got this cheesy classicness to it with the claymation monsters and stuff like that. So that's really what you want to tie into it.
I agree. Talk a little bit about, without spoiling it, because I don't want, obviously I can't speak for other people, but I personally, like, if it's something cool, I'm in. I don't want to know, like, all the details. So without spoiling the 0 level funnel, can you share some details about it that someone might have some questions, maybe for, like, judges perhaps running it?
Sure. So the basic premise is that you are on a pentaconter, one of the big rowing ships sailing for Crete. These are all your 0 level characters, and the rest of the crew is made up of extra characters in case, things don't go so well. In Labyrinth, you can always, they can go, hey, those guys we sent, they're sitting on the beach next to the ship, and they're like, hey, those guys we sent, we haven't heard from them for a while. Maybe we should send a second group after them.
Right.
But the idea is, as you guys are rowing, you're swapping stories and and that's how you hear all the rumors about what's going on in the Labyrinth, that maybe that Minotaur is not as dead as everyone says it is. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is dead. Who knows? But Minos was the king of Crete. He's the one who is the, I guess, stepdad to the Minotaur.
I don't know if we want to get into the story for those who don't remember.
Yeah, I don't get into that right now.
That turns this into X-rated territory.
But at this point in Greek mythology, he's dead. His palace is burned down, but his riches and his treasures might be hidden in there. Right. So this is part of what drives people to the adventure. Right. And then you go down into the labyrinth. It was stoned up, blocked off, so that nobody would go in there, but the entrance is right there. It's waiting for you.
There's a way. There's treasure to be gotten, right?
Yes. So the adventure itself also is only just a portion of the labyrinth. The map that I included is a clay which I drew, is a clay tablet. And the idea is you can tell that obviously there's more maze on this tablet. It's just left out. The idea of this adventure is that if your players decide they want to keep on going, you can expand the labyrinth, and you can just spend forever exploring the labyrinth. And who knows what sort. And I give some pointers on what you could put in there if you want to just expand it. Or it could be something where your players decide, hey, let's actually keep on exploring.
Very exciting. I do like the open-endedness of that, of how you've done that. Actually, it's really a really great way of how you did that. So that's something for people who get the zine, get to look forward to play with their friends. If you want to continue exploring in the labyrinth, you can. And as a judge, your imagination is you're set free to do whatever you want to do, and that's really cool. The way I've done it.
What I've written probably would fit about 2 to 3 sessions, depending on how quickly your players move through the labyrinth. And 2 to 3 sessions, 2 to 3 sessions, about 4 hours each, I would say. So that's probably about as long as it would take to get through the whole thing.
Yeah. Certainly 2. I know that when we play tested it, there's no way we were getting through that in under one session, or one session only. It was definitely a 2-session play test for the funnel and stuff, which was really fun. I had a blast. Lost a lot of 0-level rowers, but that's why they were rowing the boat. They're just waiting to come on in. Yeah. I see that you've got your copy of the zine there next to you,
yes.
Which you have actually done all the artwork yourself for it, which is really...
Yes.
The man is extremely talented, ladies and gentlemen. It's ridiculous. Not just a great writer, hugely imaginative, which is one of the things that I love most about Chris. We've been good friends for like a decade or something ridiculous.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah, look at the gray hairs. I knew Chris before he even could grow beard hair. Well, maybe not that long, but we've known each other for a while. And there's one thing that I've always admired about Chris is just his imagination is fantastic. And I didn't know that he was also artistically talented. And then one day he just shows me some art, and I'm like, this is really cool. And oh, thanks, I did it myself. And I'm just blown away. So all the art that is in the zine is done by Chris himself. And if you show the cover again, Chris, I think people would like to see that a little bit more. And obviously they can scroll up and down on the page. But, I mean, Chris did that. And how cool is that? It's a Minotaur who may or may not be in the labyrinth. And when you fold it open the full zine, there's the full graphic right there. And I think those 2 players are smart and running away. But that's usually my solution to most combat situations in DCC.
It's true. You're always running away. So what I did with all this different artwork is for years, I've always enjoyed drawing. When I was a little kid, I loved to draw all the time. I wanted to be an artist when I grew up. I like to believe that now I can claim that title because here I am drawing all of these. I also am mainly inspired by the artwork from Dungeon Crawl Classics, which I always feel is very evocative, unlike many other RPG artworks. Some RPG artworks just show like a character.
Right. But
Dungeon Crawl Classics is almost always characters in the scene, in the game, doing things they would in the game.
Right.
I also especially love the fact that in other games, they might show artwork of the heroes winning.
Right.
But in Dungeon Crawl Classic, it's almost always the characters not doing a job. My favorite piece is probably the one where the wizard is casting a spell on the fighter and he accidentally turns the fighter's head into a chicken head.
I love that piece. It's so good. I forget the artist, but
yes,
it's phenomenal.
The elf is looking right at you like, just kill me now. And I think the halfling is fainting. The halfling's just like,
someone's running away, which would be me.
So I wanted to incorporate that kind of all those different concepts into my artwork of the NPCs not having a great time. Right. So on the cover is the Minotaur who's hoisting up some poor Greek by his ankle. This Greek is an archer. He's got this quiver full of arrows and he's dropped his bow and all his arrows are flopping out because he's upside down. He's being held by his ankle. And the Minotaur has an arrow in his chest. He's like, "Is this yours?" And he's about to just bash the guy. And then the other guys are just running in terror, like, ah! And oftentimes when I'm drawing, I make the face of the person, so I'll be sitting here drawing, I'll be like, ah! And then the final thing about the Minotaur is that oftentimes I work off of models, and I am the model for the Minotaur. I took one of my children, Rowan, who is the tiniest, and I hoisted her upside down, and then I had my wife take a picture of me going, "Ah!" And as Rowan's like, "Ah!" So that was what helped me to visualize what I was going for, and it took me several times.
I had no idea you
because she-
did that. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it took me several times because she wiggles a lot. But it also took several times for me just to get the look that I wanted of the Minotaur, to make him look bullish and big and brutish and.
I think you.
I'm not that fat. I'm not as fat as the Minotaur. So I did make him a little bit bulkier.
Bulky, you know.
Only a little bit.
That's great. I think you.
Yeah.
I think you nailed what you were going for, and I love the inspiration there. I did not know that you grabbed one of your children.
Yeah.
To help you.
The final thing about this whole project that I really do enjoy, I enjoy drawing and doing the artwork, is that when I was in middle school, of course, I was obsessed with Dungeons and Dragons, and I spent a lot of time drawing and thinking about maps and thinking of adventures. But the problem was I wasn't doing so well in school, and my dad grounded me from my Dungeons and Dragons books. He took all my Dungeons and Dragons stuff and took it away. And now I feel like I could finally be like, see, I told you, Dad, I could do this. I could make a book of Dungeons and Dragons stuff.
That's great.
Magical classics.
Yeah. That's great. So I hope. I mean, the artwork, folks, is it's phenomenal. Like, it's not just the cover page art, but there's a lot of really cool pieces in the actual zine itself, like pictures of armor, shields, helmets, and Chris actually showed and shared with me some actual historical pictures of ancient Bronze Age armor, and it's some of the weirdest armor I've ever seen in my entire life. It literally looks like the dude is wearing like a barrel.
Yes, of bronze. But if it looks stupid, but it works, then it's not stupid.
Right, and back in those days, that's what worked. So hey, and he would have been very difficult to beat in combat back then, wearing his barrel of bronze armor. But yeah, so the art is great, and for this one, and for every issue we've done, Chris has been doing some of the artwork, and one of the future issues is kind of like a monster compendium, and the cover art for that is fantastic. I cannot wait to share it with you guys. You're gonna laugh your faces off. It's really funny, but at the same time, it's just as Chris was mentioning. I mean, you're gonna see your character in that situation, and it's great. I cannot wait to share the artwork, not only with this first issue, but with all future issues. And we're excited for sure. One of the really cool things that I personally love about Goodman Games and DCC is they come out with limited edition foil covers for not just their rule book, but also their adventures, which is really cool. I'd actually never seen that done until I kind of got turned on to DCC from a friend of mine. And I gotta say, having bought a couple of them and on my shelf here, I just love the alt cover and alt artwork. So with that said, one of the things that Chris and I really wanted to do with this project was to come up with a limited edition cover with alt artwork on it. While we didn't do alternate artwork, we were able to create a limited edition gold foil cover, which if you scrolled up and down this page, you've probably already seen the picture of it. And as you can see in Chris's hands, there is one of the 100, only did 100 of them, because it is a lot of work. They're made by hand by Chris himself, actually. So it's a lot of work, as you can probably imagine. And but look how beautiful that is. That is astounding.
So
Beautiful. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about the gold foil cover here, and yeah, tell us about that. Oh, it's so beautiful.
So, like you said, this is very similar to a limited artist's print. I only made 100 of these covers. They are each numbered 1 to 100. They're also signed by me. And the idea was to make something that was special. It actually took quite a while to figure out the process to get it right. But once it was done, it was just so satisfying to see. And I often find myself just looking at them. I actually have, now you guys can't see it, but behind me on this whiteboard, I have future issues. And I often like to just stare at them with avarice like a dragon. Or a dwarf mad with the gold sickness.
Exactly. That's definitely me. Like, I'm chomping at the bit. I cannot wait to get my hands on one of those. It's just beautiful. Oh, man.
It really is. So I was very proud with how these turned out. But we will only be making 100 of them. We will never make any more than that. So that's all there is.
Pledge at the limited edition gold foil cover level today to secure your copy before they're gone. That's beautiful. You did a really great job on that. Good
Thanks,
job.
man.
Yeah. Scrolling down the page, you can see that we do have one add-on. We wanted to keep this Kickstarter as simple as we could because it's our first Kickstarter. It's our very first zine that we're putting together, and we wanted to keep it simple and easy, and we really wanted to be able to fulfill everyone's pledges as fast as possible, which is why we waited to do the Kickstarter until the zine was written and we had everything done, which is the case. Everything is done. Once this Kickstarter ends and the funds clear, zines are going out like ASAP. There's no waiting. There's no editing or anything like that we have to wait for. It's all done. Looking at the add-on that we have, it is a player character sheet for the 0 level funnel. Chris is also the designer of this sheet. Man, like I said, the man is extremely talented. There we go. That's great. So as you can see, it looks like a Colosseum in a way, or the Parthenon, I guess. Is Chris, you're the history teacher. Parthenon, right?
Actually, it is the Parthenon.
Thank you.
Or the Temple of Zeus. Temple of Zeus would be good.
So that is an add-on, and if you turn it sideways, Chris, you can see that it's like a tear-off pad. And how many do you get, Chris?
There are 50 sheets. So the character sheets, first we're going to offer the PDF with 4 character sheets, so you could hand one to a player and they can make their 4 0-level characters with this character sheet on it. Again, I was like, Dungeon Crawl Classics has a character sheet. I want a Greek character sheet. Yeah. So I incorporated some of the designs are like pots, and the armor class is a Greek shield, and everything looks like it's made out of stone. But otherwise, it is the same as a 0-level character. There's no real difference. It's just flavor stuff. You want your players to feel like we're not just playing Dungeon Crawl Classics, we're playing Greek Dungeon Crawl Classics. Yeah. And then I thought about the idea of like, what would be something that if I was the judge running an event, what would I want? And I thought that I would love the ability to be, when the player's like, my character died, I'm like, shh, there you go, buddy. Go find one of those rowers and give them a name, because now you got a new character. So each of these come with 50 sheets, and they just rip right off.
Fantastic.
So,
and just to be clear, you do get included with whichever pledge level you go with. We did include blank ones for you to print out, right?
Yeah, it's a 8x11 sheet with 4 blank sheet characters on the front. On the back are 4 0-level characters that you could just like hand to someone if like suddenly if you didn't want to go through all the effort of rolling up characters, which leads me to who those characters are. Right. So, like I said, this is a project I've wanted to work on for years. And what I actually did was I based those pre-generated characters on the characters played by my students in an ancient Greek D&D game. So Elena and Krios and Lycanius are their actual characters.
That's great.
And when the campaign ended and they had won the campaign, the award that I granted their characters was immortality. That their characters, Lycanius, would live on forever. And that Lycanius would show up in every campaign that I ever run. Okay? So that was like my concept. And then when I was thinking about what should I make for these, pre-generated characters, I was like, duh, Lycanius.
That's fantastic.
And Dardanus. So that's who those characters are. They're not just people I made up.
They were to play some characters made up by high school kids.
That's right. They get to live on for eternity.
Immortality.
That's right.
That's fantastic. I love that. It's the greatest. See what I'm talking about, folks? Like, talk about creativity and just imagination. Chris is the man for that. It's fantastic. I love it. Just grabbing it from everywhere. So that's it, folks. If you have any questions, type them into the comments section there. We'll get to them as fast as we can. And I hope you enjoyed this short little video with Chris and I. And I hope you also pledge and take whichever level excites you the most. And hopefully you get, if you want, you're able to get one of those limited edition gold foil covers because they are beautiful and there's only 100 of them. So you want to jump on that as fast as you can because they're just beautiful. I mean, good grief, dude. I can't. Thank you to your wife. Special shout out to her for helping
the photos.
All the photos on this Kickstarter are by Chris's wife, who is a very, very talented photographer. And Chris, thanks for being here. And,
thank you.
What a fun project. This was great. I'm excited. So I hope everyone enjoys it. We look forward to your feedback. That's for sure.